here are the Flurry chants from the PPG Paints Arena crowd. Listen in.
That was last night on KFAN, your home for red-hot Minnesota Wild hockey. And joining us, as he is wont to do weekly, is John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild. And I don't know whether you stayed over in Pittsburgh, you come back today, or if you're home, coach. But eventually, good to be home from that 16-day roadie, right?
Yeah, good morning, Paul. We got back last night, so I think everyone was I think if they said we were going to stay overnight and fly back today, the players would have had a revolt. So everyone is ready to get back. So it's nice to be back home in Minnesota.
So from the bench, you're trying to win a game. You're trying to close a road trip with a victory, grab 2, give 0. But overall, it definitely seems like the A topic was the celebration of Marc-Andre Fleury, who got the W for you. What was the evening like for you on the bench as they continually celebrated Marc-Andre Fleury?
Yeah, right from the start, it was a great environment. Like, I think in the warm-ups, there was so many more people down at our end than in Pittsburgh's end. And, it wasn't just the game, to be honest with you. At the hotel we stayed at, there was just, like, people wanted autographs. And it was, a huge line of autographs. And to see Flower sign every person's autograph outside of the hotel, basically, for 2 days, anywhere that he went, it was amazing how much the city and the fans love him. But it's not amazing in the sense when you get to know him. Just the type of person that he is. Obviously, the player. He's won 3 Stanley Cups there, and now you see him come to Minnesota, and just the way that he is as a teammate, as a member of the organization, as a goaltender. It's just, you can see why, and why the people celebrate him the way he does. And as far as the game, it's unbelievable. You're in a visiting rink, and they're chanting for your goalie, which is amazing.
Is he, with everything you've seen, head coaching elsewhere, assistant, or here, or whatever, is he as gracious as anybody has ever seen when it comes to fans or youth hockey programs or just giving of his time, despite maybe mentally being a little off or physically being a little off? Discuss his gracious nature.
Yeah, you know what? It's not an act. Like, he is like that he's like that in public. He's like that around the rink, whether it's young players on the team, any player on the team, any coaching staff member. You talk to our, kind of the guys behind the scenes that do so much work for the players, our team services guy, our strength and conditioning coaches, our equipment managers, our trainers. He's beloved by those guys. He spends time with them. He talks to them. He's always in the gym. He takes care of people. He takes people out to dinner on the road. It's just, he's such a quality person on top of being a great athlete. It's been, for me, it's been fantastic. Yes. Is he probably out of all the stops I've been, the most heralded player that is probably the most gracious, caring, great teammate, great person. He's just, he's a Hall of Famer on both sides. He's a Hall of Fame person. He's a Hall of Fame player.
Well said. And you're trying to finish the 16-day bender with a victory, which you did. Got 11 points on the road, which is sweet. But to the game, I mean, Fleury made some huge saves for you in the third. I mean, that with the crowd chanting for, it was so surreal. It's just vintage Flower in that third period, right?
Yeah, it was. He was. I had a feeling like, now in my experience with him, he had some big games last year. Obviously his 1000th game, breaking the record, and just, he's such a competitive guy. I think he gets his competitive juices flowing. His ability to remain focused in those environments is impressive. I also think what goes along in that is he's played in some huge stages. He's played in World Juniors, Olympics, World Cups, Stanley Cup champion. So I think his ability to recognize the moment but not get caught up in the moment. And he made some big saves for us down the stretch. That's normally what you need with a 1-goal lead, and someone's going to pull the goalie and apply a lot of pressure. At that point, you're going to probably need 1 or 2 big saves in those most times in those situations, and he came through for us last night.
John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild, off an elongated road trip where they grabbed 11 points, and it's just my experience over the years, no matter the sport, John, that coaches rarely are totally satisfied, but 11 of a possible 14 points during that meat grinder, that's pretty good, right?
It is pretty good. I think coming in on playing only 2 home games to start, we knew that it was going to be an important trip for us. And I like the way that the team embraced the challenge. We talked about being road warriors and continuing to build our identity, build our game, find ways to win games, find ways to continue to get points. And not only just that, try to help individual players build their games into where everyone's going to be a contributor. And I think the guys did a great job on the trip. When it was time to do some team bonding and enjoy ourselves, we certainly did that. When it was time to work, we were ready to work, whether that was practice or games. And it was a great road trip. But as I said, almost similar to training camp, we talked about training camp being good. The engagement of the players, their willingness to work, be coachable, play hard every night. That's what the recipe is to win, whether it's home or on the road.
Now,
wild.
Freddie Gaudreau scores twice for you. Is it fair to lay it out like this? Because I'm not in the room and I'm not with the team, so I'm just kind of riding in an instinct here. Has Gaudreau been trending up of late and kind of blew off the lid last night? I mean, he was huge last night.
He was big last night. I think that Freddie really, from the start of when he came back, just his mindset, the preparation he did in the summer, he looked quicker, stronger, great mindset of how he needs to play. And his game was coming. I thought he had a good training camp. He was on a different line. I think his game was really starting to come. And then during the road trip, we switched him with Foligno and Trennan, who also, that line scored 4 goals in 2 games in Philly and Pitt. And, those guys are putting in the work. We're doing some individual meetings with them. I think they understand their identity as players, how they can work together as a line. And I'm not surprised that Freddie broke out last night. I think it was probably even in the Philly game, he had 2 great scoring chances that didn't go in. So it's nice to see him get rewarded for the work that he's putting in, but also we need him to be that type of player for us to continue to be a real competitive team as the season goes along here.
With Ryan Hartman, when he returns and say it's on the horizon, and this may be a dumb question, but I mean, you just took 11 points out of 14 on the road, and I'm sure you have lineup concoctions and things working that you really, really like. So what happens to the lineup when Hartman returns? Does he just slide into his regular spot?
Yeah, I think that's something that we want to talk about. We haven't spent a lot of time on it. Hartsey, we'll see him. He came back and he's been skating and getting himself ready. I mean, we miss him. He's a real important part of the team. He brings some attributes to our lineup that, we feel getting him back is also going to make us a stronger team as well, in what he brings to our team. So we'll see where he's at. And then, obviously we'll have to make some decisions. And I think it's like any player, sometimes when they come out, they sometimes they go right back into their spot. Sometimes it might be, in a different situation. But regardless of where we put them, we're excited to get them back here in short order.
Hey, Coach, is it fair to say with some of and we discussed it last week with a couple of amazing passes from Kirill Kaprizov. Is it fair to say with some of these passes that these are like the best he's ever made? Some say he never has played better than he's playing right now and could vie to lead the NHL in points this year. What are you thinking about all that?
Yeah, I think Kirill's obviously playing at a high level. I think, in my experiences with him, I haven't seen much different, when I came in the end of November and the second half of the year, he was exceptional. Helping drive our team and really taking a brunt of the workload. He's come back in training camp. I think he had a great summer. He was able to get home and I think refresh and spend some time with his family, came back in great shape. And right now what impresses me the most about him, obviously we see his level of play and the passes and the offense and the points. It's amazing. But what's driving that to me is like even last night, just his ability to play against top teams, top players on the road, night in and night out, lots of ice time. But the way that he's competing and playing on both sides of the puck, like he's really playing a winning style of hockey. And what's nice to see is he's getting rewarded for that. And, he's playing at an extremely high level right now, as we all know from the points, but he's really driving driving the team along with some other guys and what it takes to win night in and night out.
All righty. So now 3 in a row at home, Coach, and Tampa Bay is here Friday night. Is the first one off a long road trip tricky, or does having 2 days to settle in kind of help with that?
I think 2 days kind of helps. It's nice we got back like last night, not too late, around 12:30. So I think the guys get, wherever, probably get to bed at a decent hour. Today they get an opportunity to see their family, their friends, get away from the game, get some laundry done probably, and kind of get organized and reset. Tomorrow we have an opportunity to get them back engaged and have a good quality practice. And then, we got a tough team coming in here in Tampa on Friday. So, we need to make sure that we're ready to go. But I feel like the 2 days should help us get re-energized and get ready for a homestand. That
last night against the Pens, time for 1 or 2 more for Coach John Hynes, coaches the Minnesota Wild. The 5-on-5 game, it had to be good last night, right? Because the power play was shut out, which is rare. The 5-on-5 game last night, what did you like?
Well, one, I think we won the territorial battle. I think that we were good coming out of our own end. I think that our offensive game is coming in the sense that we're able to attack more off the rush. I think our decision making for the most part, except for a segment there in the second period where, when there's no ice to play on around the offensive blue line, we're putting pucks into space, and then our pursuit game, forechecking game, offensive zone game has been pretty strong. So I thought that was how we needed to play last night from an offensive perspective. And then coming out of the Philly game, we had been really good in our zone 1 defense, meaning, in around the slot area, high danger chances. We were really strong. We gave up some against Philly, which was a little uncharacteristic, but I thought that we were much better in that area last night.
And lastly, Spurgeon returns and gave you almost 20 minutes. How did he come out of the game? Did he come out of it okay? No worse for the wear?
Yeah. I haven't. Usually when that happens and you don't hear anything from the trainers, that's a good sign. So it was nice, to see Spurgeon come back in short order from what he was feeling. Before he really obviously worked hard to get himself back and stayed in shape, stayed sharp. And it was nice to have. It's always nice to have him back. He's such a good player. He's a leader on our team. He's vocal. So it was. It's nice to have him, and so far it looks like he's fine coming out of the game, so that's great.
Excellent. Congratulations on the very successful road trip. Look forward to seeing you at Tria one of these days for a Vox in the Box, okay? Have a good day.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, you too.
Yep, see ya. John Hynes, coach of the Minnesota Wild. Once again, 11 points out of a possible 14, and it started with a loss. Overtime loss against your 8-1 Peg squad, but you get one there. And they have a 3-game homestand beginning Friday against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Minnesota Vikings have a super special 1-game homestand beginning Sunday night against the Indianapolis Colts. And their play-by-play voice is a man named Matt Taylor. We go Vox to Vox when 9 to noon continues at FM 100.3 KFAN. It's your cash thing leader, and here they are.
Yeah, the Fan, along with 2 men in a junk truck, they want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. So go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword check. A Mike check, a 1212. The word check at KFAN.com. You might win $1,000.
Indianapolis on their own 35. Under 3 minutes we go now. Colts down by 7, 34-27. Joe Flacco in the shotgun formation. Play action. Good protection. Lost it downfield for Allen Pierce. He's got it. 30. He's at the 20. Down the far side like 10. Touchdown. 5. Touchdown. IND Pierce with fireworks in the fourth quarter. He strikes again. It's 34-33, and the Colts are 1 point away from tying the game.
That's the voice of Matt Taylor, play-by-play voice for the Indianapolis Colts. And here comes the team with the horseshoes on the helmets. Sunday night at U.S. Bank Stadium, 7:15-ish, 7:20 is Central for the Boom. And a pregame at 5 o'clock on FM 100.3 KFAN. And Matt joins us now. You're starting to deep dive your squad, Matt. You guys playing nothing but close games. I mean, it's like all parts of every game is super tightly contested. So how's the blood pressure, my man? You handling this okay?
Well, it's funny you say that because all 8 of the games for the Colts have been decided by one score. In fact, all 8 of them have been 6 points or fewer, which is the first time in the history of the NFL a team has played their first 8 games of a season decided by 6 points or less. And I think the disappointing thing for the Colts is that their season series with the Houston Texans inside the AFC South is over, and they lost both of those games by a combined 5 points. And I think had they had, more consistency on offense, you can certainly, argue that if they have some better quarterback play in both of those games. The first game was week 1, and then obviously the second game was last week. If they get better performances from the quarterback, they might be sitting atop the division. But you are what your record says you are, and right now the Colts have an uphill battle at least to get back to the playoffs.
So if the reports are accurate, and Shefty's about a 99.2%er when he does stuff like this, if it's Flacco Sunday night, what can the Vikings expect?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Shane Steichen, head coach of the Colts, is going to meet here probably in 15 minutes with the local media. So I think we'll get some more context and, maybe some more concrete answers on the Colts playing a quarterback. But if it is Joe Flacco, I mean, you can expect somebody that, has seen it all, obviously, within defenses in the NFL, being in the NFL for now 17 years. And that's kind of, I mean, listen, if you were to ask me at the beginning of the season, if there's one game you could kind of handpick Joe Flacco starting and making an impact in, I would probably pick this one just because of the complexities of the Vikings defense and how complicated it can be, how nuanced it can be. Obviously right now, Anthony Richardson's really struggling with completion percentage and reading defenses and going to the right places with the football. In a vacuum, in an isolated situation, this makes sense for the Colts to start Joe Flacco because his completion percentage is pristine. Passer rating is really good. They need to take more advantage of the middle of the field, between the numbers, just that short intermediate passing game, because the passing game for the Colts the last couple of weeks, it's been boom or bust, either big plays or a lot of 3 and outs, which is leading to a lot of time of possession for the other team. So, again, in an isolated situation, Joe Flacco starting this game makes sense for the Colts because they're desperate for a win.
Well, calling Colts games, you're as if not more familiar with Blake Cashman than I/we are here. And he's missed the last couple of games, but he, of course, was a Houston Texans linebacker. I had no idea how good of an overall player Blake Cashman was. And he's a Minnesotan, too. And in fact, Eden Prairie High School, and I live in that city, Eden Prairie, was like a year ahead of my son when Derek went to high school. So I've known Blake for quite some time, but I just don't follow AFC South or AFC East that closely unless we're playing the teams. So what do you remember about Blake when he played for Houston?
I just remember him being all over the ball, a good coverage linebacker. The Texans didn't blitz a whole lot when he was there, if memory serves, but just a guy that was always going to rack up tackles, be in the right place at the right time. And, he definitely had his big moments against the Colts in those AFC South battles. And I think he's a great addition to that defense. And that's a defense right now that's playing the run really well, as you guys know. Maybe not so much against the pass, but, the takeaway total is leading to really good success. I think they're 5-0 this year when they have at least 2 takeaways within a game. And he's part of that equation. And again, he, is a puzzle piece to, why they're so complicated and why they're such a unique challenge for a young quarterback. So again, I think that's where Joe Flacco comes into play. But I remember him being a major difference maker in those annual, or I should say twice annual meetings between the Colts and the Texans with him playing linebacker.
Matt, when the Colts are humming, what are they doing well?
Well, I think on offense, when honestly, again, it is what it is right now with Joe Flacco and the comparisons to Anthony Richardson. But it's fair to say, like, if you just watch these games and you're not studying the tape, if you're just using the eyeball test, the Colts have been better and more efficient and more in rhythm, for lack of a better term, with Joe Flacco at quarterback. And so that is the mid-range completions, because again, with Anthony Richardson, I mean, his yards per attempt is just astronomical. The big plays are there, but they're not complemented with the routine plays. And that's where Flacco comes into play, with obviously a much higher completion percentage. Passer rating is better. They're complementing the run game with Jonathan Taylor. They're staying on the field. A time of possession has just been a killer for the Colts this year because of all of those inconsistencies on offense. So they just look aesthetically more in tune and in rhythm with Joe Flacco at quarterback. I think you could probably argue that Shane Steichen is a better in rhythm play caller with Joe Flacco. So it just kind of speaks to Anthony Richardson being young and the Colts still trying to find this balance of, keeping him healthy, because that's been a big topic of conversation around here, is not wanting to use him too much in the running game because he's gotten hurt the last couple of times, when he does have the football in his hands. I mean, last year with the shoulder, this year with the oblique. So it's definitely the franchise conundrum going forward, and it will continue to be that. But as the Colts try to, capitalize on their veteran roster in some major areas on both sides of the ball, they're saying we're still in the thick of it here in the AFC. We're 4-4. We've done some good things. We've done some bad things, but we can still make a push for the playoffs here. And there's no reason why we can't contend for a wild card. So let's go to the guy that is going to give us the best chance moving forward, possibly get us on a roll, and we'll just hopefully worry about Anthony Richardson's development and his growth. He's still part of the franchise long-term future. But right now, it's about doing right for that locker room, I think, with all the great players you have in their window of opportunity to win right now, right? I think you have to do right by guys like DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart and Zaire Franklin on defense and Julian Blackman, Kenny Moore. Then on the offensive line, all those, cornerstone pieces like Ryan Kelly and Quentin Nelson. Like, you have to take advantage while you have the roster for the most part intact. And I think the Colts do. Just the unfortunate piece is that Anthony Richardson is still so young and still so raw and green. But I think the offense, again, long-winded answer of saying the offense has clicked and looked its best with Flacco complementing the intermediate throws with the running game from Jonathan Taylor.
Matt Taylor, Fox, calls Indianapolis Colts games. Follow him at Twitter as 9 to noon does, at Maytay Colts, Maytay Colts. Matt Taylor at Maytay Colts. How's the offensive line? Is Quentin Nelson still one of the best in show as left guard?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the offensive line has been fantastic. And what teams have done to the Colts the last couple of times out, they're just blitzing them like crazy, trying to rattle Anthony Richardson. Miami did that. They were coming off a bye, and they blitzed like something crazy, like 60-65%. Houston blitzed way more than they have showed to this point in the season. And they took a page out of what Miami did the week before. They blitzed a lot on Anthony Richardson. So I know Minnesota's going to blitz. This is what they do, especially when you have a fairly immobile quarterback back there on Sunday, potentially, and Joe Flacco. But the offensive line has held up. The running game has been consistently good, especially, again, when Taylor's been healthy and out there. The offensive line has definitely not been, if you're making a list of the 10 or 15 biggest issues for the Colts and their 4-4 record, you're going to have to get down to the bottom of the list to find, anybody on that offensive line. Now, I will say that there is a little bit of hiccup this week. Bernard Ryman, their left tackle in year number 3, who's really coming on and has showed a lot of growth, and I think he's going to be the cornerstone at that position for the long term, but he's now in the concussion protocol. He self-reported some symptoms after the game in Houston, and so there's no guarantee he's going to be out there. So if he can't play, guys that are in the mix, maybe like a Blake Freeland who's in year number 2. He's had an up-and-down season going back to the start of training camp, and then a rookie potentially in Matt Gonzalez, who's a day 3 pick out of Pittsburgh. And if he does have to play, it'll be his first start in the NFL in a very hostile environment. So that's a big piece of the puzzle along that offensive line to keep monitoring as we get closer to Sunday.
And I'm sure, as you know, the Vikings lost to left tackle Christian Darrisaw for the year in the last game against the Rams, and Christian was playing like top 3 left tackle in the NFL. So they trade for Cam Robinson, and I don't know if Cam, the former Jag, is going to start in this game. Wouldn't be surprised if he did, but they may wait one to go back to Jacksonville and debut him there. But calling these games Colts against Jags. What do you remember about Cam Robinson? I mean, was he like one of those tackles you would come into a game with Kwity Paye or whomever and be like, okay, well that's a spot that I think the Colts can attack? Or did you look at it like, stay away from that side? Robinson is shut down.
No, I didn't have the perception. Listen, I'm not going to pretend here and say that I'm an offensive line, savant, but perception-wise, Cam Robinson within the AFC South all those years didn't have the perception of being elite, shutting down another team's top pass rusher. Now, certainly is he probably upper half of the NFL in terms of starting left tackles over the last couple of years? I think that's probably fair to say. But I don't think he just, every time out against the Colts completely shut down that pass rush. The Colts just haven't had a whole lot of success down there. I know I'm going off on a tangent. They haven't won in Jacksonville since 2014.
Jeez.
So he obviously plays better down there than he does at Lucas Oil Stadium. But I think he's a solid pickup for the situation that the Vikings are in, knowing that, hey, we're probably ahead of schedule with Sam Darnold at quarterback. We're 5-2. We're still in the mix to do something special this year. Let's make a bold move and get a guy that's played a lot and that is familiar with our scheme, with our system. So from that standpoint, I on the outside don't think you're going to see a whole lot of drop off at left tackle. I don't think the Colts are going to feast on Robinson. But that being said, I don't think he's the reincarnation of Anthony Munoz or somebody like that. So it's a solid pickup, but something we're going to see how it plays out going into Sunday's game with his availability and if he can get up to speed in a short amount of time.
Let's close Matt Taylor at Maytay Colts. He's the Vox for the Indianapolis Colts. He'll be here Saturday for a Sunday night game against the Minnesota Vikings right here on KFAN. A couple of two-parter with the defense. I noticed the defense has allowed 6 completions of 40 yards or more. So how's the pass defense? And it also allows 151 a game on the ground. What's happening there?
Yeah, that's probably the most disappointing part of the defense to this point in the season, and it was a big problem early on. And the first 2 games of the season against the Texans and the Packers, the Colts allowed over 200 yards in each of those games. And going into the season, it was like, okay, the strength of this team, the calling card of the defense is just going to be, shut down the run, don't give up the big plays, and, make plays inside the red zone. And that should be good enough for us to keep the point total down and stay in every game. Well, the rushing defense was so gaudy allowed in the first couple of games of the season. They just haven't been able to kind of bring that rushing average down to respectable level. So, they have routinely given up over 100 yards rushing, but really since the first 2 games of the season, they haven't given up those major explosive games like they were, back in early September. So the numbers are a little bit deceiving, but again, I think, for the most part, they need to do a better job of slowing down the run and the rushing average. And like you said, they've given up some big plays. But it's all about, who you play and when you play them, right? That old adage. And I think the Colts defense is starting to turn the corner a little bit. They are playing their best football of the season. Now, some will say, devil's advocate will say, well, you're You haven't done it against the elite teams, right? You're not doing it against the Chiefs or the Lions who are putting up a ton of points. You're doing it against teams like the Titans and the Dolphins who are without their starting quarterback. So there is a little bit of a caveat there. But the bottom line is, the Colts are giving up only 16 points per game in their last 3 games. So that's a good step in the right direction. They're making more plays down the stretch of games in fourth quarters. I think the Colts, the fourth quarter margin is like plus 27 in the last 4 games. So that's good. That's a step in the right direction. But overall, this is a defense that's kind of up and down. They have given up some big games against the rush. I know that's probably going to be music to Jones's ears, and outside with the big plays to Jefferson. So the Colts have to squash those things, obviously, in a hostile environment on Sunday to have a good chance to win in this game.
Lastly, and I promise, we can't depart without discussing what transpired 2 years ago at U.S. Bank Stadium between your squad and the Minnesota Vikings. I bet you if you had come into the home Vox box, the home broadcasting booth, and heard the things I was saying at halftime when the Minnesota Vikings was down 33-0, not sufficient for the ears of children. And I bet you that was the same approach if somebody heard you on a bus or outside of a locker room or next to a bus waiting to depart and go to the airport. That might have been you after the Vikings won the game in overtime. What do you remember about that historic day?
Well, I just remember it being a unique day because it was a Saturday game, right? It was a Saturday afternoon game in December, and so it's kind of a unique start time. It was just a dreadful season for the Colts in 2022 with the whole quarterback carousel, and that was a December game, so the Colts were pretty much out of contention by that point. So they were playing for pride. Jeff Saturday's the coach, and that was certainly a unique situation, to say the least. And, you're up 33-0 at a halftime and everything's going right. It's one of those games where you can do no wrong. And then in the second half, a completely different story. And I actually went back and I looked at the box score a couple days ago, getting ready for this game already. And what floored me was, and you probably remember this better than me, but Kirk Cousins threw for over 400 yards in the second half.
Oh, wow.
You know how hard that is to do?
Wow.
He threw for over 400 yards in the second half alone. I mean, there just can't be enough possessions in one half to throw for over 400 yards. But that's exactly what he did. And then I just remember, between myself and, my stat guy who's sitting next to me, between plays towards the end of the game when it looked like he was going into overtime and it looked like the Colts weren't going to be able to hang on and get the win, we just kept frantically looking up between plays, like largest blown lead and, largest, margin of victory, or largest blown lead, I should say, for the Colts and their franchise's history, then come to find out that it was the largest blown lead in the history of the NFL. So it was just kind of a scramble with all that was going on in the late stages of that game. So, looking back at the box score and, watching some old highlights, it's flooding back into my memory, but it was not a fun experience to call the end of that game and to put it into some negative historical context for the Colts.
Great job, my brother, and I'll see you Sunday night, okay? Safe travels.
All right, I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
See ya. Matt Taylor, he's the Vox. Calls the Indianapolis Colts game for the games for the Indianapolis Colts Radio Network. Vikings and Colts Sunday, 7:20 Central for the Boom. News du Nord is next.
Welcome back. It's News du Nord, brought to you by V Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. And it's poker, blackjack, and table games all year round. Feeling the felt, having sips at Chips. And then on Thursdays, you're making picks as an NFL Pick'em, as in the free NFL Pick'em game with the MVP card, which is also gratis. You make those picks, you can win hundreds of dollars. They do it every Thursday during the NFL season.
And the Breeders' Cup is this week. That's a staple two-day event for the game that features the equine athletes.
How's the Steam team feeling?
We will tell you tomorrow night at 7 o'clock when we have a free handicapping seminar. Kevin Gorg, Angela Herman, yours truly, Jeff Madej. Jay Litza, the Star Tribune handicapper, Bruce the Oracle Meyer, champion handicapper with a lot of our handicapping contests out there. Statsy, maybe Super Stats Dave Handlin, he might be there depending on Halloween festivities with the kiddies. So I will know more after that. But the Breeders' Cup is at Del Mar in Southern California. And it's a 2-day event that begins super early on a Friday and Saturday. And the reason I bring it up is if you like horse racing, these are the best of the best ever to best. And even if you don't know how to handicap, this is the best 2 days of the year, for the most part, to take stabs at exactas, trifectas, and superfectas where you bet a little and you can win an exponential amount of cash. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be there a fair amount both days. Looking forward to it Friday and Saturday. Breeders' Cup 2024. And to learn more at CanterburyPark.com.
We'll start on the ice. You had head coach John Hynes on earlier this hour. The Minnesota Wild are 6-1-2. They handled the road trip so beautifully, PA, and they closed off said trip with a 5-3 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Love that. Love the fact that Marc-Andre Fleury was getting chants at PPG Paints Arena.
And here are the Fleury chants from the PPG Paints Arena crowd. Listen in.
Beautiful.
And we had talked about it a bit, PA. We did Vox in the Box and things, and it's kind of, if this is going to be the final year, what do the swan song moments look like for Fleury, whether last night in Pittsburgh, at some point it's going to be in Vegas as well. And I believe it was his 100th game last night for the Minnesota Wild. But last night he's on the ice and he's chatting post game.
Hey, 691 games, 13 seasons, 3 Stanley Cup wins with this Penguins franchise. How do you describe what this moment, playing your last game in Pittsburgh in front of these fans, means to you, Flower?
I don't know. Tough to put into words. This is a second home for a long time. We had so many great memories. So many great people in the locker room throughout the years, and the fans, obviously, right? And again tonight,
I mean, just listen to that. It was absolutely an unbelievable moment for him, but fantastic start to the season for the Minnesota Wild, who are keeping pace, just a couple of points behind Winnipeg in the Central Division. So good times, good start for the hockey team.
Spurgeon returned, played nearly 20 minutes. John Hynes said he came out of the game okay. So he, was no worse for the wear, but the captain should only improve game by game. I asked Coach Hynes, middle of the interview, Hartsey, one of the guys, Ryan Hartman, quite possibly will return this weekend. The squad is going great guns. So, does he just get his spot back? And he didn't say no. He didn't say yes. He's like, we got to start thinking about that and evaluating things. Those in the know with the Minnesota Wild have told me for a week and change, Freddie Gaudreau he's trending the right way. Blew the top off last night with a couple of goals. And also Kirill Kaprizov. Now, FIWA, Fairness and Wild Act. I didn't watch the game last night. But the people with whom I chatted, it's becoming a common thread now with what I'm being told by those who absolutely would know about Kirill Kaprizov and his passing, and the fact that he will contend, he will vie to lead the NHL in points this year if he continues passing like this. Hynes said his two-way game, paraphrasing the coach, is about as good as you're going to see. And it's extremely high end. And now they're back home. 14 points were available over 16 days, and they got 11. Coaches rarely smell the metaphorical roses. Hynes did, because to have a 7-game trip that early in the season and you get 11 of the 14, and it starts with the target at which you're shooting at this moment, the peg, which is 8-1. That's a quality road trip. Very, very well done by favorite hockey team.
Kirill, 13 assists thus far, 18 points in 9 games.
Wow.
So yes, if he continued, and 2 points a game, well, that's 160 some points, obviously, but he's on a fast track right here with all those assists. There's no doubt about it. Sadly, the Minnesota Timberwolves were on track until Kyrie derailed the whole thing. Howl.
Dunker spots right to the right or left of the basket along the baseline, kind of outside the paint. Kyrie straight away buries the three. 3 for 3 from long range, 7 of 12 from the field. Kyrie Irving up to 18 points. 8-0 run after the Wolves started the quarter, 10-0.
And I'm glad that was included in the highlight. That was the key, is the Wolves came out in the third quarter ready to battle last night after being down at the break. And Kyrie just said, I'm not really interested in participating in a loss on a back-to-back. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on my shoulders. And 35 points later, including 6 triples, one of which you just heard in the highlight. It was indeed over. Doncic had 24. He struggled from deep, actually had to leave the game. Looks like his knee got bonked at some point early on, but he came back in the second half. He was doing fine, played 40 minutes. Anthony Edwards, terrific last night for the most part. He was 12 of 20. He had 24 points, PA, in the first quarter. 5 or 6 of his 7 triples were in the first quarter. Trouble at the line, 6 of 12. The turnovers, he had 5 of them, but the team had 20 in total. Nas Reed had 5 giveaways as well. So turnovers were an issue last night. And as big a jump as Anthony Edwards put for this team right out of the gates, the Mavericks are just battle-tested, man. And they get it from all over. There wasn't much of Klay Thompson last night, but impressive night for P.J. Washington. Gafford's the type of guy we watch it for LFL reasons as well, fantasy reasons. But he's the guy that just kind of quietly goes 6 of 6 and has a block or 2 in the mix, right? And Lively off the bench doing his thing. So it was a fun and entertaining game, but mind-numbingly infuriating when it came to the turnovers and the fact that the Wolves, after losing to them in the Western Conference Finals, didn't have any better answers last night.
And speaking of answers, hopefully Chris Finch, coach of the team, joins tomorrow. I want to chat out Dante DiVincenzo, simply because I just thought that there would be a little more from the points producing standpoint, 3-point percentage standpoint. And I also have a high level of appreciation for people who are traded and they're trying to settle in.
Yeah.
Because Julius Randle, after stubbing his toe in his debut, he seems to have filled in quite nicely, playing the way Julius Randle is capable of playing. But DiVincenzo with the perimeter defense, the scoring pop off the bench to complement and or amplify Nas Reed, I just wonder what his lot in life is and like how he's settling in right now. Because I just know from watching him, A, watching him, but B, watching him in the Knicks-Pacers series last year, it's just not the same guy.
Yep.
And it doesn't mean it won't be the same guy, but right now it's just not the same guy. So hopefully Finchy has some time tomorrow.
Yeah, he's only shooting 31% overall, 26 from three-point land, so there's some struggles there, and he's getting his shots off. Last night, he was 1 of 6, but he's had double-digit attempts in each of the 3 previous games, so it's not for lack of opportunity. But other than, he's putting some steals down on the stat sheet, but overall need more offense from Mr. DiVincenzo. Cam Robinson to the purple. I got a couple more for you. This Vikings specific. We talked about it earlier in the show. It'll be podcastable as well. But Cam Robinson, 8th year Jacksonville Jaguars, was a second-round pick, spent his entire career in Jacksonville. He is now a member of the Minnesota Vikings. 91 games he has started at left tackle, and the Vikings sent a conditional 5th-round pick, a 2026 conditional 5th that could rise to a 4th based on playtime. He will be a free agent at the end of this season, but it sounds like, and the head coach, I believe, will be speaking later today as well to kind of give more insight on it in terms of how the move was made, why it came about, etc. But our questions on, is it going to be Quesenberry? Is it going to be so-and-so? What kind of moves they'll make to fortify the offensive line in the wake of Christian Darrisaw's injury? Cam Robinson, they went and got a starting left tackle.
Unbelievable.
For a conditional 5th-round pick 2 years out. It's super impressive. My ideas yesterday were so awful at the TCO show. I said, first, I think it's crazy that you would bench Anthony Richardson because I don't know how you go back to him. And they said like an hour later, yeah, we're going to Flacco. And Shane Steichen actually confirmed what you and Matt Taylor were talking about. It is Joe Flacco moving forward officially.
Okay.
But then my other thing, I don't know how at this stage of the game that you're going to find a starting caliber left tackle midstream.
Yeah, you can't predict that.
And they go out and grab one, 2 and 6 Jaguars, and they got some love for each other. They made a move for Ezra Cleveland a year ago, so that all helps. I couldn't believe that. So Cam Robinson, welcome in purple.
Well, the only way to possibly have that on Rube radar, which would be us, is to, like Darrisaw goes down in the Rams game, And then after Monday Night Football, so it's yesterday.
Yeah.
We go through at Pro Football Reference or wherever every team's starters at left tackle, and then we get to all right, here we go, AFC South, Raymond Ryman. Yep. Okay, I wouldn't have known that he was in concussion protocol till the information was made available later yesterday. Then you go through, got this guy here and that guy there. Oh, wow. Who's this Walker Kessler? Kessler Little. Leonard Little playing left tackle for the Jags. What happened to Cam Robinson? Well, that would have been an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Okay, what happened to Cam? Do we really want to take 10 minutes out of our life to research his concussion against the Patriots? No, not at that stage.
No.
That's why GMs get the big bucks.
Yeah.
So props to Kwesi and staff. By the way, this is what they do. Recognizing there's a 91-game starter who, for whatever the reason, did not start and was active in uniform on the sideline. Let's go get him.
Yep.
What do you want? That's it? Oh, no, excuse me. Okay, yeah, no, that's cool. All right. So anyway, we're going to have Rob call you up. He's the money magician, and we'll take care of Cam flying up here, stay at the Omni, and see what happens Sunday night.
So welcome to the Vikings, Cam Robinson. And then last thing as we end News du Nord, Stephon Diggs, his season's over. He tore his ACL over the weekend in the non-contact play. It was third quarter against the Indianapolis Colts. 4-yard pass to Joe Mixon. Diggs cut inside on a route, grabbed his right knee, sat on the turf, walked off on his own power, and did not return. And D'Amico Ryan says it's a blow to us. Hurts our team to hear the news. Such an important part of our team. Everything that he brought, not only on the field, but off the field, the energy, the leader, the way he worked every single day. Have to pick up the slack. The key here is, just from a pure football standpoint, you got Nico Collins on the IR right now, and now you've got Diggs out for the season.
Yeah, let's go Tank Dell.
Correct, go Tank Dell, but the weapons have been just battered and bruised down there in Houston.
The Texans, I like into the Vikings game, then out of the Vikings game. Shiny toy terrorism. I use that term a bunch with them. They're a shiny toy. Got a bunch of big names all over the place. One of the speediest teams in the NFL. CJ is good, not great. D'Amico splashed in his first year. They won a playoff game. That thing just always has the feel of a house of cards to me. Like it's going to topple. It's just going to topple and it ain't going to be pretty. So I can't exactly explain why. Maybe there's too much shiny toy to it for yours truly. But
doesn't it breed skepticism when right out of the gates, and Charch is doing the analysis, all of those things, and it's not just Charch, but the way that this wave came upon those kind of, you're trying to find angles. You're trying to find stuff that, obviously the Chiefs are going to be in the mix. Obviously the Bills, if they can cut down on the turnovers and figure out how to replace Diggs and Gabe Davis, they might have a chance. But the Texans being convert on a regular basis and without a lot of resistance, that they're this Super Bowl caliber team, there was natural skepticism that popped on me right away.
Well, off what they did last year, first year coach, rookie quarterback, Nico Collins. My man's always been. Let's. Do you have any more news, Nord?
No, that's it.
Yeah, let's fade the music and make this a marathon, courtesy of FVP batteries and FVPparts.com. We'll take it to the 12. And good morning. With the Texans, there just has to be an expectation when you have a new coach and it resonates the way it does. Now, they killed Flacco in the calm in the first playoff game. And they had a kick return touchdown and a punt return touchdown, maybe both, but certainly one.
Well, Joe had 2 pick sixes in that game,
That's
too.
what I was thinking.
Yeah.
There were multiple return, and there was a punt return. There was somebody did something. The Steve Slayton or whatever the guy's name is. They had
that's a throwback name for sure.
They had a bunch of return touchdowns, and that was against Flo Jacko. All right, so that has to be taken into context because you have Flo Jacko at quarterback, sans Chick Knob. I talk like that sometimes. You had Joe Flacco at quarterback, sans Nick Chubb. Well, that thing blew up, and things haven't gotten better for the Cleveland Browns since, save the Jameis Winston victory over the Baltimore Ravens, which is utterly astounding on a lot of levels that the Ravens, of all the games they'd lose to that team that's really struggling. But AFC North games, division games, the black and blue division, you have no idea how they're going to go. See Cleveland and Baltimore.
I mean, Joe's been good, through Burke. Joe Flacco's joined our show a couple of times.
He's the bomb.
Awesome dude, the whole bit. But I mean, the 82-yard pick six to Steven Nelson and the next drive, they're down 24-14. Then he throws the first one.
Wow.
And then it's midway through the third quarter. Let's dust this off and let's make a go of this. It's do or die. Season's on the line. Christian Harris, 36 yards to the house.
Wow.
I mean, just
Christian
brutal.
with a K, I think. Now,
brutal.
Okay, well, who is the returner, punter kick? I'm pretty sure there was one in the game. It's bugging me now. I think the last name is Slayton or Sly.
Well, Steve Slayton played for the team years ago.
Yeah, Joey Sly or like
Joey Sly might be a punter or kicker. I got Desmond King and Dare Ogunbowale.
Okay, so
in that game
with touchdowns,
there were no scores.
There were no scores. Okay, so there were pick sixes. Well, with the Texans. I felt it was, and who's to say? I mean, it's they're 6. Well, I think they're 6-2. I think they're 6-2. Damn. So they got so their only losses would be Texans are 6-2, right?
They're 6-2. They lost to the Minnesota Vikings, and then they got nipped by McManus at Lambeau.
Right, and they got Mixon to return in that game, I think, and he's super key to them. Yeah, Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is so tough, and he's been to the Super Bowl with Joey Burrow. That's the kind of guy that galvanizes things when they start to get a little hot. But I wasn't mad, or I didn't disagree strongly with those who would get loud about the Texans going to the Super Bowl, because you just expect a natural progression when they have so much new at so many key spots. Age old as it is and cliched as it can be, if you don't have the right quarterback and the right head coach, you ain't going to do it. That's it. You have to have the right head coach and the right quarterback, or you ain't going to win the Super Bowl. See Belichick Brady. See Reed Mahomes. You can Harbaugh Flacco. Coughlin Eli Manning. Eli for fantasy football fans, not the greatest stock in the history of quarterbacks. In the regular season, you put him in the postseason. My man was a 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Holy cow. So right coach, right quarterback. They seem to have the right coach and the right quarterback with Houston.
Yeah.
But it's from 6-2. They could end up this thing being 13-4, man. But they're still going to be going to Kansas City. And this could be one of these teams, the Houston Texans, off the Diggs loss. I think they can overcome that. They can overcome that running Mixon, throwing shorter to the tight ends and things like that. And then I think they'll get Collins back. That was short term IR, I believe, correct?
Yeah, it'll be. I think all the IRs are after 4 weeks. You get that practice window.
But see, for the Texans, I just envision one of two things. It has a house of cards feel to it, where when it topples, it ain't going to be pretty, and it's going to head off into the metaphorical sunset with a lot of questions. Or the shiny toys and all of the speed when it becomes galvanized, and when it believes. The Texans are a loud team too, just like they're just loud pregame. They've got a lot of youngsters who talk a lot of trash, stuff like that. When things like that galvanize and come together in a way we don't believe anybody can beat us, they can go to Arrowhead and win. They are that talented. I don't see it, but nevertheless, speaking of Arrowhead, the Kansas City Chiefs, the fan has learned, okay, they're undefeated. B, they've lost significant players for like patches of games this year. Isaiah Pacheco, is he seasoned?
Isaiah Pacheco was 6 to 8 week recovery time.
How about that?
Yeah.
Rashee Rice,
right
season.
in the thick of it. Rashee Rice is out.
Season.
Yep.
Holy cow, they're undefeated.
And then they bring in Juju Smith-Schuster.
Yeah.
And I think he ripped his hamstring up. So now he's hurt.
Wow.
After that primetime game, I forget who they were playing now.
Yeah.
But he found that connection with Juju. And now he's out hurt. Yeah, everyone's getting hurt on that team right now.
Well, help me with this. It just feels from afar like Travis Kelce is a threat and he requires a lot of attention. I don't think he's blowing up right now, is he?
No, he hasn't had a great season.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, it's probably a good season because of what he's pulling defensively that opens things for other players. I just have a feeling, having watched maybe a grand total of 2.5 Chiefs quarters this year, I just have a feeling there are players on their defense with super special Spags and Mahomes. I just have a feeling they've never played better. I'm just thinking Mahomes is, forget the statistical wherewithal, because Jared Goff might win the MVP, and he's throwing for 84 yards in games or whatever it is. But it just feels like Mahomes is just toying with the National Football League right now. And this bad boy is becoming, if it's not there, the new England Patriots. I mean, this is the target at which to shoot for everybody, as long as that guy's throwing the ball and Big Red is coaching the team.
I mean, it's crazy how this lines up. Kelsey's leading the team, but he has 335 yards and 1 touchdown. They got the rookie cat, Xavier Worthy. He's trying to do his thing. He leads the team in TDs right now. But after that, it's like getting Shamaje Perine out of the backfield. It's Noah Gray. It's Justin Watson. I mentioned Juju. He's hurt. Mm-hmm. They just made the trade for DeAndre Hopkins. So what does he have left?
They got D-Hop.
But they're trying absolutely everything they can. They're a top 5 defense in the NFL, though. Every single game, they're going to have a chance to be in it with that defense. And then that quarterback.
Watch D-Hop. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins. Now, FITA, Fairness in Tennessee Titans Act. Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, whomever, Patrick Mahomes. All right. But I mean, I caught some, like Florio and I talked about it a little bit last week when he's like, you don't think DeAndre Hopkins is going to do well in KC? Of course he is, because he's playing for a wonderful coach and a wonderful quarterback in an ideal situation.
Right.
But there were some Titans related moments that I caught with DeAndre Hopkins where I almost wanted to say, man, can you at least try? I mean, it's quite apparent you're not happy here and it ain't working the right way. But can you just give these guys a little bit more? I don't know if he's played for the Chiefs of late or like what he's doing.
I think he's played in one game, yeah.
Watch DeAndre Hopkins just at the perfect time, 6, 175, and 2, and they move on to the next one.
Well, that's the difference. Look at two guys, the way that Devontae Adams handled his situation with the Raiders. And he goes there, it's his buddy Derek Carr. They're trying to, hey, go Bulldogs, Fresno State cred, right?
Yeah.
And then quickly he heads to New Orleans, and now after a couple of weeks of catching passes from, I think it's Stidham and Minshew, Gardner Minshew, whatever decisions were made there, they're like, this ain't gonna work. Suddenly my hamstring hurts. Trade me, please. I feel a little bit different and more sympathetic to Hopkins, because I think Hopkins went there thinking, this is an opportunity. I believe he initially joins Tannehill, still the guy. So he's thinking, well, if anyone's going to make Tannehill a 35 touchdown guy, it's me, of course. And then Treylon Burks comes in. It's an absolute bust. Like, I think Hopkins actually went there thinking, yeah, they got something. They got Jeffrey Simmons. They got a defense that can play. Vrabel's a cool coach.
Play action off Derrick Henry. I'm going to love this. And then D-Hop's like, oh, wait. They give it to Henry 40 times a game. I'm not going to love this.
And then, but then he leaves, and it's Malik Willis or Will Levis. Malik leaves, of course. Rudolph's trying to resurrect or trying to find starting work post his Steelers days.
Yeah.
I kind of feel how Hopkins could sit there and go, is this going to be like a real thing here? Like, is it like you're going to ask me to go out there and I'm actually going to run a slant over the middle and expect that Levis is going to have it where it needs to be so I don't get decapitated? No, thank you. But now he's absolutely going to jump up, I bet, in a big way for Mahomes.
I'm going to write out a bonus pressure point for you that does not involve the NFC North, that you just triggered with me.
Okay.
And courtesy of Sukup Manufacturing and Sukup.com. NFC North pressure points are around the corner. But first, here comes the cash thing.
Yeah, the Fan and Two Men in a Junk Truck want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com, enter the keyword Bills. The keyword is Bills. You might win $1,000 with the keyword Bills at KFAN.com.